Welcome to Making Memories and More. Let's get started on today's project.
To start out Mary, I went ahead and cut a long triangle. Basically, I just sat my cork down, rolled the full felt around it, and marked. So I went ahead and cut that. I'm going to affix that onto the cork first using a hot glue gun. I'll go ahead and trim that even here in the back. Next I'm going to take my twine here and that wrap around just slightly below where the felt starts. Again, I'm going to use hot glue to do this. And trying to decide how to tackle the next section of this, I think the best approach is going to be to use the entire sheet of felt and work from there, rather than trying to pre-cut a piece. So let's see here. I'm going to first start by tacking right in the center front there. Give that a minute to grab on. And then I think what I'm going to do is tack here on the sides next, and then we'll work from there, bringing these sides from the back. So let's go ahead and tack those down. And on this side. Now we can go ahead and push the front section back and bring the back section forward to create these folds that she has. And again, I'm going to tack as I go here with some hot glue because we're going to end up with quite a few layers here. And what I'm trying to achieve is that the back is not bulging, and that also helps you achieve the look you're going for in the front in the long run. Alright. Give that a second here to hold on to. And then we'll do it again here on this side. Tack that back. And then bring this piece forward. Go ahead and tack that down again. And now is when I'm going to go ahead and trim my felt, because I wanted to make sure I had ample amount. Okay. So this is what we're left with. And I'm going to go ahead and tack down here in the front the two pieces overlapping. I'm also going to put a little glue in between these two layers to help hold it steady. Then again between the other two layers here. Looks like I'm going to also use just a little bit here in the back to affix her covering. And fix up our trim here. Alright. So all we'll have to do is go ahead and put a face on her. There we go. So there's our little Mary. Let's go ahead and create Joseph. Again, I'm going to start in the same manner as I did for Mary. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the felt around the base here. Mark where you need to cut. Again with the length as well. We'll double check that cut before we glue it on. Perfect. Go ahead and put on his main part here. Again with hot glue. and overlapping just a tiny bit. Now Joseph doesn't have the twine around the base here, his is around his head. So we're going to go ahead and skip past that. And then his head wrap is slightly different than what we did for Mary. His is a lot smaller and shorter, if you will. So let's go ahead and start off in the same manner as we did for Mary. Kind of get the placement together that we'd like. And the crossovers for him are going to be further in the back, or foldovers I should say. So let's tack a little bit further down, but you don't want to go all the way down into the body area because we're going to add another layer onto that section that fits underneath his headpiece here. So we're going to bring his headpiece to the back and fold over and go ahead and tack it there. And do the same on this side. Looks like our glue let go over here, so let's try that again. As I'm going, I'm wiping away any glue that happens to come out of the edge, because I want that felt held down right to the edge, so I'd rather it come out the side than it to be too far back and not hold the piece together. Alright, so again we're going to pull his headpiece back further than we did with Mary's on this side as well. Tuck it in real tight and tack this down. And hold it. Now, as I mentioned, his headpiece is shorter than hers. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and trim this. I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch or so below where it meets his clothing here in the front. I'd rather leave it a little long and come back and trim it again if need be. So you might want to eyeball this just at this point. All right. Now his last piece of clothing is almost like a little vest, for lack of better terms here. And as I said, it's going to sit below the headpiece we just made. It's going to start in the front, go back around the back here, underneath that headpiece. and end just shy of the other piece here in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. We're essentially making the triangle we did in the beginning, only this one is just short of going all the way around him. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and affix that on there. And trim him up. Now I'm going to come back here to the back and finish off his headpiece. I would go ahead and tack down wherever you see necessary to hold the pieces where you want them. Of course, each piece you make is going to be a little different, so this is going to vary. And what I'm going to also do here is tack just the center down over the top of all this, just so we don't have this piece flying out in the middle of nowhere. And as I mentioned, the twine that we had put around Mary's body, for Joseph we're going to go ahead and put around the top of his head. And it looks like, let's see. Something along that length. And again, I'm going to put just a tiny bit of hot glue to get it started here in the front and to hold it exactly where we want it. Wiping away that excess. I'm going to give it a minute to firm up before we continue on, because I want to make sure that's good and steady there. Alright, let's continue on around. Just putting ever so slightly some hot glue there. And then around on this side. Now I would try to knot it back here, but I have a feeling that's going to create a huge bump that's not going to be very pleasant. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue it in place. Alright, there we go. And there's our Joseph. So we have our Joseph and our Mary. Next we'll go on to create baby Jesus. Okay, to create baby Jesus, I went ahead and took a cork and made a slice that was about a 1/4 inch thick approximately. And I cut 2 angles down so it'd be a little slimmer here at the bottom. And cut out a square piece of like a cream colored felt. I'm going to fold this almost completely over on itself and put the rounded part of the head at the top. And then swaddle basically like you would a normal human child. Folding one side over and then the other side over like so. So that's our basic premises here. But let's go ahead and do it with gluing it this time. So I'm going to glue my triangle up first. And then my cork or baby face. Then go ahead and do this side on over. Basically just use that excess to hold down the corner inside here. And now and last tacking down the little tail here. And there we go. There's our baby Jesus. So we have Mary, Joseph, and our baby Jesus. So let's go ahead and put the facial features on them next. Alright, to finish these 3 off, we need to put some eyes on them. I'm just going to use a puffy paint. This happens to be a Scribbles brand one. You could use stickles, if you have half pearls. You know, there are so many different ways. You could even just use acrylic paint. This just happens to be the way I prefer to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put their eyes on them. And I want mine to be fairly simple, so I'm not going to go all out with all facial features. All right. And next I'm going to do just a simple mouth. On just Mary and Joseph there. Jesus is tucked into his blanket a little too much to put a mouth on him. So there we go, that's our finished product. I'm going to go ahead and let it dry and then I'll give you a final shot of how they turned out.